So if we can please have it quiet, and would you please stand? Jerry Carrillo is going to offer the invocation.
We'll let it get quiet in here for a minute. We all know without prayer, not much is going to happen. So let's agree in prayer to the Lord God. Father, we thank you for this time. All the activity, rallies, debates, our own lives, our families. We ask help from you. We call on you right now, Lord, that we would biblically live the way you want us to live, for your purpose, for your honor. We ask your blessing on the Tea Party as there are a bunch of warriors going out trying to make a difference. Thank you for raising up our great President Trump. We ask help for our families, ourselves, that you keep our heart focused on you in Bible, Scripture. And we just thank you for this time, Lord. In Jesus' name.
Amen.
Would you please remain standing, and we will have the Pledge of Allegiance led by John Barry.
All right, hello again. My honor to lead you in this. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, no kneelers. I like that.
And please be seated. Remain quiet, please. We have a special guest who will sing for us tonight. Reagan, if you will come forward, she will sing the national anthem for us.
Stand up! Stand up!
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we've watched, where so gallantly streaming and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
So welcome to everyone. And just for housekeeping, is there anyone in the audience who has paid to be in the front seats who has not been given a seat? If so, would you come to the front and we'll try to accommodate you? We thank you all for being here, and what a great crowd this is. As you know, the Tea Party is all about personal freedom, economic freedom, and we truly believe that government is here to serve us and not the other way around. Tonight, we are hosting the first debate between the two Republican candidates for governor, Travis Allen and John Cox. Our panelists for this debate are John Berry, Redlands Tea Party Patriots, and Judy Neal with Mountain View Republicans, and Don Dix, who wears so many hats, I don't know which one. Just a couple quick announcements. We have an interesting meeting coming up in February. We will have another candidate, Mark Moiser, who's running for Secretary of State. And we will also be launching our election integrity project to make sure all votes get counted and are correctly counted. In March, we will have candidates for the 42nd Assembly District. One is here tonight, Andrew Kasich, I saw in the audience. The other one is Gary Gren. I haven't seen him here tonight. But there are some other celebrities in our audience, and I'd like to recognize Tim Donnelly. Where is Tim? He's running for U.S. Congress 8th District. Over here to my left, I believe is David Hernandez. Running for Lieutenant Governor. Somewhere in the audience is Kimberlyn Brown. Are you here? Kimberlyn. Running for the 36th District, U.S. Congress. And also in the audience is Tom Pelzer. Where are you, Tom? Is he here? Oh, okay. Running for U.S. Senate. And if I've missed anyone, please stand and we'll try to recognize you. Good. Oh, okay, we have a, oh, I recognize. Stacy Barth? Oh, okay.
How's your set?
Greetings, everyone. My name is Aja Smith. I'm a United States Air Force veteran, and I'm running in the 41st District against Mark Tacoma.
Now, I'm going to turn the mic over to John Berry again.
One more. Okay.
This gentleman just called me the other day, Johnny, forgive me the last name, Nalbandian, who is running against, running for Congress against Adam Schiff, and has come all the way out here to see us tonight.
Thank you, candidates. And by the way, look around you. We have at least 300 people here. In the 9 years of the Redlands Tea Party Patriots, this is our largest audience ever. So it's very exciting. The largest audience before this is when Tim Donnelly ran for governor, and we had 246 people here. So this is exciting. talked about all the petitions. So again, we have petitions in the room for the Stop the Top 2, to repeal Prop 14, also to repeal the gas tax. We have signatures in lieu of filing fees for Sean Flynn and Mark Moisier. I think that's it. So what you may want to do is, as you funnel out the people collecting those signatures, try to get them out here so we don't have a door jam. Okay? All right, I've already talked about the petitions. We are going to be local coordinators for the sanctuary state when those go out for signature. So stay tuned for that. I spoke, I'm in contact with the guys, and the latest I heard, they're trying to get the language approved by the Secretary of State. So could still be a while. Some other announcements. Okay, I am the president of the San Bernardino County chapter of the California Republicans Veteran Association. So, 35 years, still in the Army Reserve, veteran. If there's been a war, I've been there. Okay, so anyway, if you are a registered Republican and a military veteran, please come up and see me afterward. The CRBA is a political group, and we hand out endorsements to people we support. So unlike the American Legion, who are 501c3, we are about endorsements. So please see me afterward. Also, I am the media coordinator for the Election Integrity Project California. These are the people whose data was used to sue by Judicial Watch to sue the state. EIP needs volunteers. If you are interested in volunteering for EIP, come up and give me your contact information. I will forward that to the correct people. And by the way, one of the EIP, Ruth Weiss, will be here next month. I also organize door-to-door canvassing for the Redlands Tea Party Patriots. As I said earlier, our volunteers put 16,000 voter guides on doorsteps throughout the Inland Empire. I am planning an even more robust effort in 2018. Please complete that flyer on your tables if you're willing to volunteer, and tell us what you're willing to do. Okay, the Redlands Tea Party Patriots is an all-volunteer group. In fact, we pay for many of the expenses out of our own pocket. So we see these silver tea kettles going around now. Please put something in it. Please put your donations in there. We rely on that to help everything from our Christmas party to help our canvassing efforts. All those things that we put on people's doorstep costs a lot of money. So we want to print out professional looking flyers. That comes down to the money you put in that teapot. So please raise it up, raise that tea kettle. Please put something in it. We appreciate it. Finally, I've been asked to join the board of directors for the National Tea Party Patriots. So what that means is, in effect, I'm going to become Jenny Beth Martin's boss as being a member of the board of directors. So I said, well, why you guys want me, right? I mean, why? Okay, I am good looking, but I don't have a lot of money. Okay, why do you want me on the board? And they said, we like what the Tea Party Patriots have accomplished in California, so by putting me on the national board, this will give them the grassroots perspective of what the Tea Party Patriots actually are. So their asking me is actually a reflection on you for everything we've accomplished in California. So if you're a local coordinator of a group, I would like to come speak to your groups and talk about how the Tea Party Patriots are helping and now be assisting with the Trump administration. So please come up and talk to me afterward. Finally, it's 2018 and I'm not tired of losing yet. So it's good stuff.
And thank you one and all for your support of the Redlands Tea Party. This group in the front, particularly, we thank you for supporting us. The teapots are being circulated for all of the folks behind the seats, so that if you would like to give a donation, we would appreciate that. I'd like Robin Vidston to give an announcement. This is the last one before we start our debate.
This will be a very brief announcement, I promise. Our organization, We the People Rising, we fight illegal immigration in the streets. to the Homeland Security ICE Director, Thomas Hogan, who is on the record on Fox News saying he's going to fight the sanctuary state law. He doesn't care. Our letter is for everyone to sign tonight. We want to communicate to him that we support his stance to come into our state and enforce immigration laws. We have two petition collectors, Betty, hold your petition up, and Mike, with We the People Rising. Be sure and sign this. We have sent petition and letters to Homeland Security before, and they do read them. We get reports back. So by signing this petition tonight, your voice will be heard in Washington, D.C., that we here in California want our immigration laws enforced.
And Greg is going to come up to start the debate and give us our instructions, but I want to ask, is there anyone who has not put their white ticket in the boxes for your selection in the straw poll that we're asking you to vote for before the debate? Remember, there will be a second vote after the debate tonight.
Let's try this microphone. Can you understand me out there? Hi, Don, said you never understand me. Appreciate the support. Anyways, I apologize for my voice. I'm getting over a cold here. My friend Don said, does Carolyn think your deeper voice sounds sexy? I said, well, yes, but the coughing and wheezing sort of detracts from that. Anyways, now after we got the announcements out of the way, the reason why we have these other groups up here, by the way, we're the Redlands Two-Party Patriots, but we have Mountain View Republican Club, we have We the People Rising, we work with all these other groups, and why is that? Because we're part of a broader coalition called Unite IE. Because we realized after the 2012 election that we have these little isolated groups that don't even know each other, whereas the left is all working together. From the unions, to the Muslim groups, to the LGBT groups, to whatever number of letters they have on that, to the unions, the whole pyramid, the environmentalists, they all work together, and our side wasn't. So that's why we're supporting, whenever we can, we support other groups like We the People Rising in the work that they're doing. Now, what you've been waiting for. Welcome to the 2018 political Hunger Games. May the odds be ever in your favor. But seriously, we're so pleased that Travis, Allen, and John Cox have selected our group and the Unite IE activists out here in the audience for their first debate. We think that is significant because it shows a new focus on the grassroots by the two principal candidates for governor. This is a crucial time in America and in California, the sanctuary state law just being one example. And it's important that we choose the right person to lead the effort to try to take back California. So even if you have a favorite now, I encourage you to listen and keep an open mind. We'd also like to thank our owners, Jim and Mary Beth, that opened up their saloon for the debate tonight, and for all of our monthly meetings. And of course, the really good thing is, if you don't like what one of the candidates says, or if your favorite candidate makes a mistake, you can always order another drink. I see some of the campaign staff already lined up there at the bar. Our purposes tonight are twofold. One, to help make the case to the broader range of California, to the working men and women of California, that after decades of corrupt, incompetent, leftist Democrat government, they need and deserve a change. In the words of Senator Jeff Sessions, there's somebody who will serve their needs and not the needs of the political class. And second is to help our audience here and those who are going to watch this on YouTube or on Facebook Live, which of these two candidates can best lead that effort. Our format tonight is we're going to start with opening statements from the candidates of 5 minutes. We'll then have questions from our panelists. There'll be 2-minute answers. And then we're going to allow some audience questions interspersed with the panelist questions. And those will be 90-second answers. I will ask follow-up questions or allow additional time if I think the discussion warrants it. You've asked you to write out your questions, but we're not going to pre-screen them. You get to read your questions. We ask you to write them out, so when you come up to the microphone, you're better prepared to ask a succinct, focused question. If you want to ask a question, you're going to line up back here at the start of the tables, and when it's time for audience questions, I will take in order of the line. And I think that about covers our groundwork. One final comment before we bring our candidates up. The candidates are most likely going to agree on 95% of all the issues and all the questions. And it'd be very easy then to focus on things like John Cox voted for Gary Johnson in 2016. Travis Allen made some contributions to Democrats. And John Cox made a contribution to an organization that may be somewhat connected to George Soros, and so on. And those may be valid points and things that you may want to consider. But we hope that the debate tonight will go beyond that. And we'll focus on which of these candidates has the vision, has the leadership to prove to the working men and women of California that he and the Republican Party will serve your interests in the ways that the corrupt, incompetent, leftist Democrat government has not. Our first candidate tonight, and Travis Allen did ask me to introduce John Cox first on the theory of age before beauty. Okay. John Cox describes himself as a Jack Kemp-style Republican. He grew up in Chicago before coming to California. He has formed an organization that repairs homes for seniors and individuals with disabilities. And he's mobilized 20,000 volunteers and repaired more than 1,000 homes. He's built up his own business to an assets of more than $200 million with 100 employees. John and his 4 daughters live in San Diego with his wife, and they're active and attend the Nativity Catholic Church. And John is also very concerned with cleaning up the corruption of special interest money in the government, particularly in Sacramento. Welcome, John Cox. Travis Allen, an assembly member who represented the 72nd Assembly District in Orange County since 2012. He has his own business in the investment consulting business. He's also been very active in charities and supporting, including causes to support Israel. Yes! Very important. And the most important distinction is Travis Allen has the much better tan. What you think? Okay, and with that, I will step aside. Travis, move up to the stage. You will have, the best mic is here, so you will share the mic when you're speaking. You may sit down or stand up when you're not speaking. And may the odds be ever in your favor.
Opening statements, Craig?
Opening statements, do you want to lead off?
I'll go ahead. Age before beauty, is that good? Okay. Are you ready for a Republican governor in 2018? I am. And we elected a Republican businessman who was going to drain the swamp. How about a Republican businessman who's going to clean out the barn in Sacramento? How about that, huh? I want to accomplish a number of things here tonight. And first of all, I want to tell you who I am. I want to tell you why I'm doing this, and I want to tell you how I can win this campaign and bring California back into fiscal sanity once more. And we're going to do that. First of all, who am I? I was born on the south side of Chicago. My mother was a single mom raising 4 kids. She was a school teacher. I moved out to California, discovered California is even more corrupt than Illinois. Hard to believe. through school. Yes, I worked my way through school. I finished college in 2.5 years because I was paying for it. My daughters took 5 years because I was paying for it. I started my own business when I was 24 years old. So yes, I've been in business for almost 40 years, working hard every single day in a small business. I've been very blessed, very fortunate. My business now has almost 100 employees. I've also been very, very blessed to be married to a wonderful woman, and she's right here today. Sarah, my wife, thank you for being here. Thank you for sitting behind me all the way. And I also want to introduce my youngest daughter. I have 4 daughters, by the way. 4 daughters and 2 female granddogs, by the way. My daughter Julianne, thanks honey for being here. But most of all, what you need to know about me is that I'm just like all of you. I'm a conservative activist. I go back a long, long way. Yes, Travis, a long way. 1987, I was on Jack Kemp's presidential steering committee when he ran for president. And I believed in Jack Kemp. I think we would have had a much better country today if we had Jack Kemp elected as president. Because Jack Kemp believed in entrepreneurship and opportunity and a welcoming nation. But I didn't just stop there. I stayed involved all the way. I was one of the first members of the Club for Growth with Larry Kudlow and Steve Forbes. So I have connections all over the country from that. When I moved out here, I stayed involved. I was Newt Gingrich's finance chair in 2012. That's a true conservative, to be Newt Gingrich's finance chair. I didn't stop with that, by the way. I also got involved. I was right here in 2012. I gave a speech right in this venue. I gave $100,000 to Proposition 32. Remember that? Paycheck protection. And I was here speaking to this very group about that important idea. I also funded the recall of Bob Filner. Remember Bob Filthy Filner? Who was a living, breathing embodiment of what we have to do about this government that we have. And I'm going to tell you, that's the reason why I'm running for governor. I'm not running to get another leg up or to get my name or face on billboards. My wife is scared to death of that. I'm running for governor because this state needs to be transformed. I remember my mom went to school in Berkeley. She remembered the wonderful growth of California, the California dream. Remember that? It wasn't just the mamas and the papas. It was people that came from all over the world to get a sample of the opportunity that California can offer. And it's no more. This state has the highest poverty rate in the country. 1/3 of our residents are on Medicaid. Our education system spends one of the top amounts in the country, yet our results are down around the low 40s. Our roads are a disaster. We need to get government back to our hands. We need to make sure that the cronies and the corrupt are out of government. Now, why can I win? Because I'm running against the special interest corruption in Sacramento. I have a plan. And Gavin Newsom is a walking, living embodiment of special interest corruption. And when I'm in that debate with Gavin Newsom, I'm going to be talking about the plan that I have to bring the government back to the people and get rid of the special interest influence. That's how I am going to win this campaign. I ask for your support, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here today. Thank you.
What a beautiful crowd. How's everybody doing tonight? Who here is ready to take back California? I can't hear you. Who here is ready to take back our state? There is one person in the race for California governor who's been a Republican his entire life, who was born and raised right here in California, and who supported our Republican nominee for president, Donald Trump. Let's hear it. Raise your hand, show of hands. Who here voted in the last presidential election? Quick show of hands, who here voted for anybody other than Donald Trump? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm an investment advisor and a Southern California surfer. Okay, I never wanted to be in politics. I was born down in San Diego. I was raised 5 minutes from the border. But you know what? I had to watch as my parents left the state, my brother left the state. My best friend now lives in Texas, where he doubled the size of his house, doubled the size of his business, and he pays no state income tax. I own an investment company, and I still work every single day because I don't believe that your politicians should be full-time politicians. That's why I just introduced legislation for a part-time legislator, so the legislature has to go back and work in real jobs just like all of us, pay taxes, and live under their own crazy laws. You know, I've seen my clients now since 1996. I started out investing just here in California for California clients. My clients now live in 22 states around the nation. Quick show of hands, who here knows anybody who's left the state of California? Keep your hands up if you ever thought about leaving the state yourself. Right? I am tired of this. That's why in 2012 I stood up and I said no more. It is time to fight. I went and I got myself elected, but you know, let me take a step back. Because the guy sitting behind me, the guy who didn't even support our Republican nominee for president, wants to try to take shots at me for being the only true conservative in the race. I will tell you something. In 2010 and 2011, I was a business owner, and I attended some events at the request of some of my friends. They said, hey, come on down and see these guys speak. And so I went. I bought tickets to these events. And you know what? When I sat there and I had to listen to these Democrats, the light went in my head. The light bulb just went off. And I said, wait a second. This is what's wrong with California. This is why my parents have left. This is why my brothers left. This is why my clients are in 22 states around the nation, and my best friend is in Texas, and my other best friend left the country, and he's now in Puerto Rico. California has to be saved. It's got to be turned around. And right then and there was what galvanized me to go run for political office, and that's what I did. In 2012, I was the underdog. I was not supposed to win. There was another Republican in the race, a so-called Republican. Right? This guy wouldn't even sign something called the No New Tax Pledge. Because you see, he wanted to get up to Sacramento, and he didn't want his hands tied. He wanted to be able to make those special deals with those special interests so he could jack up our taxes, which are already among the highest in the nation. I signed that No New Tax Pledge. And since I've been in office, every single day I have fought for you, and I have never once voted to increase your taxes. Let's hear it. Is everybody tired of having our taxes raised in California without our consent? Is it time to repeal Jerry Brown's gas tax? Thank you. I have a 100% rating from every single organization that you care about. The Howard Jarvis Taxpayer Association, the California Taxpayer Association, the National Federation of Small Businesses. Because at every single juncture, I have fought for the little guy in California. Because I want my parents to come back to the state. I want my brother back to the state. And I want my best friend to say, you know what, Travis? Texas is great, but the weather's better. I'm coming back to California. That's why we win in 2018. By the way, we have to recognize that there is a true patriot in this room among many others. And before we get too far into the evening, I just want to recognize a guy who has shown me what strength in Sacramento looks like. He is sitting in the back of the room. His name is Tim Donnelly. Let's hear for a true American patriot. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is State Senator Travis Allen, and I will be your next governor of California. I have a simple 5-point plan. Cut taxes, get tough on crime, fix our roads, expand our freeways, fix our broken education system, and finally complete our state water projects so that we no longer have these crazy droughts every 10 years. And in my first 100 days in office, I have already vowed to reverse the sanctuary state.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. When our timekeeper, thank you. And our timekeeper, Dale, stands up. Please respect that. Finish your sentence if you want to, but do try to respect the time limits so both candidates will be treated fairly here tonight. We're going to start with questions from our panelists, and we're going to lead off with Judy Neal from the, ladies first, the Mountain View Republican Club.
Today's law enforcement is having their ability to serve and protect shackled by the passage of Sanctuary State Bill. The safety and security of all our citizens, especially seniors, are prime targets for fraud. What will you do to protect all the citizens and allow our law enforcement to do the jobs they were hired to do?
We're going to alternate, so Travis will take this, we'll speak first on this question, then John, and we'll reverse it for the next question. 2 minutes.
So, California has this great law, it's called 3 strikes, right? When we passed 3 strikes, crime went down dramatically in California. But because of Jerry Brown and the California Democrats, who passed AB 109, Prop 47, and Prop 57, criminals are now getting out of jail early, felonies are turning into misdemeanors, and violent crime is up over 15.4% since 2014 alone. We must reverse Prop 47, we must reverse AB 109, and we must get rid of Prop 57 because we got to make our communities safe again, right? But it doesn't stop there. We must enforce federal immigration law. Listen, it's very simple. The federal government controls our borders. It's time we secure our borders. California will no longer be a sanctuary state under Governor Travis Allen. It's very simple. It is very simple. There is no reason that people who are not in our state here legally should be sheltered with your taxpayer dollars. Do you agree? There is no reason that Jerry Brown should take $50 million of the most recent budget and put it into legal defense funds for people who are not in our state legally. That's your money. There is no reason that they should be writing bills to spend $1 billion of your taxpayer funds to provide health care for people who are not in our state legally. Do you agree? California is first and foremost for California citizens. This is a great thing. We welcome everybody into our country, but you better come in the front door and you better come in the right way. Let's get tough. Let's reverse the sanctuary state and let's respect federal immigration law. I don't know if you saw Fox News, but let's get Trump and Sessions to sue California.
On my first day in office, I will take whatever action I can take as the chief executive to end the sanctuary state enforcement. It is beyond ridiculous that we have public officials who thumb their nose at Washington and believe that they are right in not enforcing and not cooperating federal law. That's like George Wallace standing in front of a schoolhouse in Alabama saying he's not going to live up to federal law. We need to make sure that all federal law is enforced. Now, I agree with Travis on most of what he said. I want to point out one thing. You know the reason why the politicians were all about passing Prop 47 and 109 and all these bills to reclassify felons as misdemeanors and to let people out of jail? Because we can't afford to keep them. We've got prison dentists making $800,000 a year. Go look it up. It's all about political corruption. I'm going to make the case all across this state that the cronies who give money to the state legislature and to the governor are controlling the state and running this state down and making it unsafe for all of us. I gotta tell you, I love Travis's enthusiasm and his great things, but you know what? If you can't get it done, it's going to result in another Arnold Schwarzenegger. Anybody interested in another Arnold Schwarzenegger? What we've got to do is get the cronies out of power. We've got to get the special interests, the big unions and the big businesses out of power and put the people back in charge. And I got to tell you, that's what the voters want, and that's why they will elect me as the next governor of California. Thank you.
I'm going to take the prerogative to ask my first follow-up question. SB 54 is now the law, state law. Governors can't repeal, both of you will get a chance to respond. Governors can't repeal state law. So, assuming one of you is elected, how are you going to, and if there's no initiative which overturns it, how are you going to overturn California's sanctuary law when the legislature is still controlled by the Democrats? Travis, you start. 1 minute.
So this is very simple. Last year I introduced legislation to defund any sanctuary jurisdiction in the state of California. Right? This of course was killed by all the Democrats. But it's very simple. See, I've already vowed to reverse the illegal sanctuary state in my first 100 days in office. The question is, well, how do you do that? Because the governor can't write laws. You only get to approve them or veto them. So what I will do is in the first 100 days, I will gather the necessary signatures and I will use that very special power of governors to call a special election and put it before the people of California in the first 100 days to reverse Jerry Brown's illegal sanctuary state.
And when I'm elected governor, we're going to make sure that we have a legislature that will listen to the people. I mean, right now, you know it. We have a supermajority working against it. I don't blame Travis for running for governor because you can't get anything done in the assembly. What we need to have is a legislature that's going to actually do what we want it to do. And we can get a vote of the people on a particular issue, but I want California transformed up and down the state. I want to make sure that we end the sanctuary state movement, but I also want to make sure that we get economic sanity back here, that we get affordability in the state, that we get an end to the cronyism and the regulations that are just choking off small business. We absolutely need to make sure that we end this sanctuary state nonsense, but we also need leadership that's going to have a legislature that's going to listen to the people and not the cronies.
Next question, John Barry.
Okay, next question. In 1963, Alabama Governor George Wallace defied federal desegregation orders by refusing to allow 2 black students to enter white schools. As a result, President Kennedy federalized the Alabama National Guard to enforce compliance. In 2016, California legalized marijuana and created the sanctuary state, 2 state laws that openly flout federal law. As governor, would you encourage the state to take such extraordinary measures to enforce federal law in California?
So the question is, would I take extraordinary measures to enforce federal law?
Also to bring the president in as president.
Well, there's no question, as governor of the state, I will work with Washington, D.C. and President Trump, who may have voted for him, but I really like what he's doing as president of the United States. And we have to work together to keep this state secure. We need to make sure that we're not at odds. And absolutely, I will work with federal law enforcement. I think of the young woman who was murdered, not Kate Steinle, but another one that didn't get the publicity. I think she was from Modesto. And her husband was going after her, and the police picked him up as an illegal alien. And instead of informing her, they just let him go. Let him go, and didn't inform the local authorities. And of course, he went out and murdered her. I mean, we have got to make sure that we take a stand, that the law has to be enforced. The rule of law is sacrosanct. You know, countries like Venezuela and Cuba can flout the law. We have to make sure that the law is enforced, that people respect the law. If we don't like the law, we can work to change it, but we need to make sure that the primacy of law, that's what separates us from chaos and anarchy.
Let me answer this question directly. I was on Carson Tucker 2 nights ago, and I very simply said, President Trump, Jeff Sessions, come to California, sue California, and let's enforce federal immigration law. It is very simple. The political system in California is broken. The legal system in California is broken. That's why I'm running to be the next governor of the state, because you got to fix it, and you got to fix it from the top. If we have problems in California that we cannot fix with federal laws, you better believe we call the White House and we say, sue California and let's get federal laws enforced. Take it to the Supreme Court, take it to our good buddy Neil Gorsuch, and let him sort it out. What do you say? Look, it's very simple. We have this president, Barack Hussein Obama, right? Did anybody here vote for Barack Hussein Obama? Just checking. Barack Obama thought he was a law unto himself, right? He thought he could write his own laws, and that's exactly what he tried to do. That is why President Trump's actions in the last year have been so phenomenal to undo the legacy of socialism and the rapid switch to the left that Obama brought in and Hillary Clinton was going to continue. This is what is at stake in California. Make no mistake, Gavin Newsom is the former mayor of San Francisco. This guy is to the left of Bernie Sanders. California cannot afford another Democrat in office. California cannot afford Gavin Newsom. That's why we have to take back California, enforce our laws, enforce federal laws, and make sure that the people of California come first.
Next question, Don Nix.
They do work better when they're on. Governor Brown says man-caused climate change is the greatest threat facing California today. Do you believe in the concept of man-caused climate change? And if you don't, what would you do to unwind the legislative and administrative priorities that Governor Brown has instituted in order to support that belief? And what do you feel is the greatest threat facing California today?
Well, the first thing I'm going to say is that the greatest threat facing California today is bankruptcy. And we're going to hopefully talk a lot about that. But I'm from Chicago, and I've been talking to my grown-up daughters in Chicago, and it hasn't gotten above 10 degrees in the last 2 weeks. You don't hear a lot about global warming when that happens, do you, huh? And they're having a bomb cyclone on the East Coast right now. Listen, there's a lot of opinions out there. You know, everybody has their own opinion. They're like rear ends, right? Everybody's got one. But I certainly want the air clean. I hope everybody wants the air clean. The air is a lot cleaner today. I can see Los Angeles most days. And it was a Republican that did that, George Bush, the Clean Air Act, right? We need to make sure that we have clean air, but we can't hamstring our economy. I applaud the fact that President Trump withdrew us from the Paris Accords, which would have transferred trillions to India and China and the rest of the world. We absolutely need to make sure that we have clean air. I certainly think that technology can be developed. I applaud that, but the greatest danger facing us is bankruptcy. I'm a CPA. I drafted pension plans. I can see what Illinois is going through right now. And if you don't believe it can happen in California, you're wrong. We are facing an impending debt bomb that's bigger than any bomb cyclone in the weather system here. We need to make sure that we have a governor who can talk to the people of the state, who can work with a new legislature that's going to be composed of the people and not the cronies, so that we can solve this pension bomb and make sure that we have a sustainable state going forward for our children.
You know, who here is a fan of Jerry Brown? Come on, what, 16-year governor? What has the movie given us? Absolutely nothing but more taxes, crumbling infrastructure, and now 1 in 5 Californians lives in poverty. The biggest problem facing California today is the high cost of living, skyrocketing crime, and Californians leaving the state and the ones that are staying. There's this two-tier system in California where 1 in 5 live in crushing poverty. Jerry Brown's solution, of course, is cap and trade. Jerry Brown wants to convince Californians that man makes climate change somehow, right? And the only solution for this is to tax you more money. This was his cap and trade tax plan, which passed, by the way, unfortunately with some Republican votes. What do we think about that? Right? Standing before you is one Republican that never voted for a tax increase in California and never will. Jerry Brown came around and said, look guys, the only way we're going to change the climate in California is to tax the people of California more. With cap and trade, which will increase the cost of your gasoline by up to another 73 cents in the next decade. Does that sound like that's going to change the climate much? Right? This is their idea. So what did we do? Not only was I the first one to vote against it, I was the first one to vote to throw out the Republican leadership that took Republicans to vote for tax increases in California. Look, the only thing that California's climate change policy has done is drive companies and businesses and Californians to other states, and that is going to stop. Travis Allen is your next governor of the state of California. I am going to hang a bright neon sign over the Capitol, and it's going to say, open for business.
Hang on a second, Judy.
Yes.
You guys mentioned the cap and trade tax, and one of our local assembly member, Mark Steiner, whom we unfortunately supported in his previous election efforts, was one of the cap and traders. So was Chad Mays over in District 42. Our group will not support either one again. What would you advise Republican voters in terms of how to deal with the cap and traders? Should they hold their noses and vote for them as maybe better than Democrat, or should draw a line that says that is too far and we cannot support you? 1 minute each.
I've been a conservative activist, as I said, a long time. I'm the only candidate up on this stage who was endorsed by the Pro-Life Council. I'm a life member of the NRA, but I'm also a longtime friend of Grover Norquist at the Americans for Tax Reform, and I signed his tax pledge. Grover has a nice story about the rat head in the bottle. Have you ever heard of that? Any Republican who votes for a tax increase is basically like Coca-Cola having a rat head in the bottle. You're never going to buy another Coca-Cola ever again if you find a rat head in the bottle, are you? You need to stand up and you need to say, we're not going to vote for tax increases. We are the party that does not pick at the pockets of our voters. And when I'm governor, that will always be the case. And I will absolutely talk like that in front of any Republican who thinks that they're going to raise taxes. I want you to also know that I put my money where my mouth is. I put a lot of money into the constitutional amendment to repeal the gas tax. It's not a statutory repeal as Travis did. It's a constitutional repeal so that tax can never be instituted again. Thank you.
So since I got elected in 2012, I've helped over 20 candidates across the state, Republicans, get elected in office. I have led a volunteer organization of over 500 people and gone all over the state to make sure that Republicans get elected all over California, because that's the only way we're going to change our state. Yeah, but we got a problem, right? What happens when we elect a great Republican and they do something that's not so great? What happens when these Republicans go to Sacramento and they want to cut deals with all the special interests, and then we say, wait a second, what's the difference between you and that Democrat? I will tell you this, Republicans must be held accountable for their votes, simply put. But if we're going to throw out a Republican, you better have another Republican right there behind him in line. Because as bad as those votes were, I will tell you that the Democrats are against you 99% of the time. So if any of these guys get thrown out, we better have excellent candidates in their place, because we better have more Republicans in Sacramento.
We'll move to Judy, but please find us somebody to run in 80-40 against Mark Steiner. Please, please. Judy.
Yes. I just turned 70, and I recently lost my husband. I'm now on a fixed income, and it's going to barely cover my expenses. Now, unelected bureaucrats have decided that they want to add a gas tax on top of cap and trade, and we've been saddled with SB 231, which is the rain sewer tax, which is going to affect each parcel in the state of California to the tune of $800 to $1,800 additional tax every year. Now, I can't afford that. I moved to Texas. When I turned 62, my property taxes will be automatically frozen, and I won't have to pay any more until the day I die or sell the house. So, would you support legislation here in California freezing taxes, property taxes, for seniors at 62 years and above?
Mr. Williams, I think I lost track.
I agree with that, Judy, and I'll go you one more, because I have called for a change to Proposition 13 that allows seniors to take that Proposition 13 valuation assessment and move it to a new property. You know, the Democrats have made this state virtually unaffordable for us. And why? Because they've driven up the cost of housing, right? And seniors who have been in their house for a long time aren't selling, so the prices stay high. So what we've got to do is we've got to make it so that they can take that Proposition 13 assessment. But I'm telling you, Gavin Newsom and the cronies in Sacramento, they don't want that. They want the split roll. They want more tax revenues. And why? Because California doesn't have a taxing problem. It has a spending problem. And I'm like what Mike Ditka said about George Hallis. I throw around nickels like manhole covers. And I'm going to make sure that we put this budget on a diet. I'm a CPA, and I'm going to talk to the people of the state about how much money is wasted because of the cronies in Sacramento. But again, you got to have a plan for dealing with the special interest corruption. It's wonderful to tell audiences like you that we're going to get all this stuff done, but we've got to make sure that we get a legislature that will get this done, and we have the leadership in the governor's mansion that's going to put this state back on a footing so that we aren't hitting seniors with huge tax increases.
This race for governor is going to pit me against Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom supports every tax increase you've ever seen. Gavin Newsom wants to attack Prop 13, not even keep it. He's going to want to attack it. He's going to want to raise your property taxes. He'll start with the commercial guys and the people that have a second home, but you better believe that sooner or later it's going to come to you and your house. Whether you're a young person, a millennial that can't afford a home, whether you're over 60 years old and on a fixed income, they are coming for your money because Sacramento has never seen a tax that it doesn't like. The Democrats never have enough money because if only you would send them just a couple more dollars, they would finally solve all of the problems in California, right? So the bottom line is this: we don't need tax cuts just for one group or another group. We need tax cuts for every Californian. One of the biggest problems in California today is the high cost of living. The high cost of living is a direct result of all of these taxes and all of these fees. The Democrats just last year wanted to tackle affordable housing. How did they do that? By tacking on yet another fee of $75 on every single real estate transaction that you do for every piece of paperwork that you file. This is their answer to everything. We need tax cuts in California. They must be across the board so every California benefits. Every California needs to have a place that they can live, work, raise their family, and retire in what should be and will be once again the greatest state in the nation.
Well, and just a reminder, our Twitter is #RepGovDebate. That's REPGUV debate. It's very lively right now. In 2015, the Colorado Springs Gazette wrote Clearing the Haze, an in-depth look at Colorado's reality 1 year after that state approved recreational marijuana. In that series, the paper reported that traffic fatalities related to marijuana had doubled, the black market for marijuana had increased, Colorado received less than 1/3 of the $100 million expected in tax revenue for marijuana treatment programs. Drug-related violations hit an all-time high in Colorado high schools. Infant poisonings from marijuana-infected edibles and breast milk had caused more children to be admitted to Colorado Springs area hospitals with marijuana poisoning, and some of those children are even in cardiac arrest. Those are just some of the many findings from the Colorado Springs Gazette. Now that California voters has approved Prop 64, as governor, what would you do to ensure that California's experience with marijuana does not replicate Colorado's reality with marijuana?
How about we enforce federal law? Is that a good place to start? Listen, you know, if somebody has cancer and medical marijuana can ease their nausea or their suffering, if someone has glaucoma and this helps their glaucoma, I can understand this. But I have always been against recreational, legalized marijuana. The state that has had this, Colorado, has terrible results. You've just heard some of them. How about this? The second highest teen rate of marijuana usage in the entire country in Colorado. This is going to be a failed experiment. This is Gavin Newsom's great idea. It will lead to the normalization of marijuana, which turns into the gateway drug. Remember back in the 60s, they said it was a gateway drug, and then that was all disproved? Well, no longer. It has now been clinically shown that you are 9 times more likely to use other harder drugs once you start using marijuana. This is the problem. Medical marijuana might be acceptable, but recreational marijuana, where people are literally coming to California like it's Amsterdam, will only have terrible consequences for us, for our families, for our communities. It won't lessen crime. All of this money they want to use as tax revenue, it won't come in because the black market still explodes, because the tax on this is over 20%. And then, of course, what's going to happen? More Californians start using more drugs, and you know where all this goes. By the way, the other candidate in this race, he didn't vote for Donald Trump, he voted for a guy called Gary Johnson. Gary Johnson supports legalized drugs, fully legalized drugs, and I will tell you, that's a bad idea for California.
Well, I'm the only candidate in this race who didn't, the only Republican who didn't donate to Gavin Newsom. Pay attention to what people say, but look at what they do. One of the candidates gave money to Gavin Newsom and to Jerry Brown. I am going to talk about why they enacted this. Follow the money, ladies and gentlemen. Follow the money. The marijuana industry is a huge supporter of Gavin Newsom. Make no mistake about it. And that's the problem here. And of course, they sold it to the people of the state, claiming that it was all about just decriminalizing minor amounts of usage. Travis is right. That's a gateway drug. It leads to other drugs that you're going to use. But they sold it to the people on false pretenses. And that's the problem here. We've got to have politicians who tell you the truth. I told you the truth about who I voted for because Gary Johnson was a 2-term Republican president, or Republican governor, and I had read stories. I was a Cruz supporter, and I had read stories about Donald Trump giving money to Hillary Clinton and Chuck Schumer. I would have cut my arm off before I gave any money to any Democrat. That is why I was unsure about President Trump. I will tell you this, though, it was a mistake. I will be on record right now, and let's get it out in the open. It was a mistake because I am pleasantly surprised by our president. Because I believe George W. Bush when he told me he was a conservative, and he turned out not to be. And I was not going to get fooled again. And that's why I cast that vote. And I hope you understand that I'm honest. Maybe I'm honest to a fault. I could have lied about it, but I didn't. Because I'm always going to tell you the truth. And I would never give money to any Democrat. I've only supported Republican candidates and Republican causes. Thank you.
Before Don asks his next question, once we finish Don's question and the answers, we're going to take some audience questions. So if you have your question already written out, you can start lining up here, and we'll take some audience questions after Don's questions and the answers.
As half the room gets up to get in line. All right. There's a lot of financial issues facing this state regarding schools, regarding the budget. And I'm going to try to encapsulate what I think might be the source of a lot of the financial struggles that our state has. A lot of the money that California raises in taxes gets shifted around from bucket to bucket. The elephant in the room, the big fiscal calamity inside California, is an out-of-control benefit system with a defined benefit pension system at the core. What can you do as governor to get the pension system, which is causing fiscal calamities in every corner of our budget, under control, so that we can begin using the money that we raise for gas taxes, for roads, for schools, and the other purposes that it's intended for? So the question is, what can the governor do to control the out-of-control pension plan that we have in this state?
It's all about leadership, Don. It's all about leadership. I'm a CPA, I'm a tax lawyer, I drafted defined benefit pension plans. I've taken defined benefit plans completely out of the private companies that I represent. We need to go to a 401k plan. And we need to get a rein on the out-of-control expenses. I was on Stuart Barney's show the other day, and I said this. I said, Bernie Madoff is in a jail somewhere wondering why Jerry Brown isn't in the jail cell right next door. Because I've never seen an actuary use 7% as an assumed rate of return. And the reason they do that, they're honest about it. They say if they used a real rate of return, the state would be bankrupt. We can't do this to our children. This is generational theft. And it's wrong. And I'm going to talk to the people of this state. I'm also going to make sure that we get a legislature that's not held in sway by the cronies. If you ever have a low-energy day, you need to go to a website called transparentcalifornia.com. Have you ever heard of this?
Yeah.
Because, Don, it's not just the benefits, it's also the salaries. You will see Victor Joseph, this prison dentist who made $800,000 last year. You'll see prison psychiatrists making $500,000, dozens of them. Nurses and firefighters, we love them, but they're being mismanaged. They're putting in hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of overtime. What we need is what 19 states have right now around the country. You know what they have? They have an experienced businessman as the governor. 19 states, including states like Maryland, Massachusetts, and Michigan. I know you all love what is set up here, but you got to understand you need to have a business person who has experience building, who has experience setting goals and meeting them and holding people accountable. That's what I will do as your governor. Thank you.
Well, you know, I absolutely agree. California does need a businessman as governor. And that's why I'm running the next governor of California. I've owned my business since 2001, and it's funny because, see, I'm a certified financial planner. And what do I help my clients do? I help them to retire. Whether it's with defined benefit pension plans, whether it's 401ks, or whether it's just with other sorts of investment accounts. I have tons of firsthand experience. I've also been the vice chair of the Public Employees Retirement System Committee in the legislature. And what I have seen firsthand is that CalPERS is funded at less than 70 cents on the dollar. This is a ticking time bomb. If you take a look at the pension plans across California, they don't have enough money in them. And the problem is that the workers of California who have been promised these benefits, who have actually contracted for these benefits, who have these benefits as their legal right, are being lied to by their union bosses. Just last year, I introduced legislation that for any state worker, when you get your annual benefits summary that shows how much you get at retirement, the very next line would have to show you how much of that is actually funded. So if it says you get $4,000 in retirement, how much money is actually in the plan to pay that benefit? Oh yeah, and by the way, you want to hear another great deal? If you work for the state of California for 20 years, you get free medical for life. Name one private company that does that. Why do government workers in California make 50% more than private sector workers? The old social contract was work for the government, get a safe job and good benefits, but you get paid a bit less. Now that's been turned on its head and is absolutely backward. It starts with telling the truth to the people of California. It starts with telling the truth to the workers of California. There are tons of great people that work for our state, but we all know there is a ton of waste, and that waste must be cut out. We must get serious about this. We have to make sure that California is funded, because otherwise we will go bankrupt, and that's why you need a financial business owner in the government bankrupt.
This is important, so I'm going to ask a follow-up here. We all agree, we all recognize the pension problem. More than $1 trillion of unfunded liabilities, tax increases are really pension increases. And 60% of the increase in education has happened in this last 6 years. Most of that money is going into pensions, not into improving education. What neither of you have suggested is any way to change the dynamics of the negotiation between the government employee unions, which have the ability in many cases to get the employer, the mayor, the county supervisor, the state legislators fired if they don't agree to their demands. Back in the private sector, if the union could go get the company president fired if he didn't agree to their demands, you'd have the same type of situation. Do either of you have a plan, an idea of how to change the dynamics of the government employee union versus the government negotiations? And I'll throw in my idea is an initiative that would require voter approval of government employee union contracts.
Well, as you know, Greg, I put 100,000 hours into Proposition 32, and I went around giving speeches. I endorsed the concept of lessening the power of the unions, but you know what? They are very good, and they have tons of money at defeating initiatives like that. But it's actually not enough just to go after the pensions. We have to go after the regulations. We have to go after the outrageous salaries. We have to go after the waste and the inefficiency in the schools. You know, ladies and gentlemen, our children are the most important resource we have. Right now, our schools are held in sway by the teachers' unions. Why do we have tenure? I don't have tenure. We need to have school choice for every one of our parents. But we will not have it as long as we have this state legislature. As you know, we filed 800,000 signatures for the neighborhood legislature. You need to look at this because we need to have a way of getting the corrupt and the cronies out of power, or all this other discussion is just hot air.
Everybody remember John F. Kennedy? Right? What was John F. Kennedy's big contribution to the United States? How about unionization of government workers? What was Jerry Brown Moonbeam's contribution to the state of California when he was governor the first time around? Unionization of California government workers. This is why we are in this mess today. We have a brand new person in the Supreme Court. His name is Neil Gorsuch. And you better believe he's not going to die in his sleep. Think about that for a second. Let me tell you. Why? We just did a forum a couple of weeks ago for the California School Business Association. And in the room were all of these people elected to school boards. My mom was actually a president of our local school district down in Chula Vista. You would think that these people would believe in fiscal, accountability and responsibility. They'd be looking out for, the good guys in the room. They would want to make sure that their balance sheet were in line so they could educate their children. But instead, the room was packed by people that were put in place by the unions, because the unions are controlling their own dollar.
All right, now let's hear some of our members and activists. Agnes.
Hi. My only son was murdered by a previously deported illegal alien. And you already covered what you're going to do to take back California and stop this insanity, this mess called Sanctuary State. What are you going to do to fight the likes of Kevin DeLeon, who only fights for illegal aliens, and and what are you going to do to give law enforcement the power and respect they deserve so they can do their job to ask for ID, arrest illegal aliens, and turn them over to ICE so we can have California great again?
Absolutely. I want to tell you, Agnes is a phenomenal individual. Agnes came up to Sacramento with me just last year on my bill to defund sanctuary cities. Agnes has been through amazing personal tragedy. She is a wonderful person. I want everyone to come up at the end of this and shake her hand, take a picture with her. Her son was killed in a driveway by someone who never should have been in this country in the first place. Thank you, Agnes, for everything you've done. Listen, Tony Villar, right, also known as Antonio Villaraigosa. Oh, I'm sorry, wait. I'm mixing here. Kevin DeLeon has already said that over half of his family is here illegally, or came here illegally. The governor of California has the ability to empower our law enforcement to do their job, to cooperate with ICE, to make sure that if people are coming into our jails because they have committed crimes, that they get reported to the federal authorities so ICE can come in and do their job and make sure that our communities are safe. There is no reason why our taxpayer dollars should be sheltering criminals who are committing crimes while in our state illegally.
Ma'am, I can't begin to express my sympathies for you. I mean, I've had clients that have lost children. That's the worst thing you can do, is to bury a child, and I'm so in sympathy with you. This is all about leadership again, ladies and gentlemen. We need to have a governor who is going to exercise the right leadership. I was on Fox again yesterday, and I was talking about the fact that people of Latin descent, and there are numerous of them in California, you know that, they want safe communities. They want their children safe. They don't want criminals. They don't want MS-13. They don't want the drugs and the guns. They want the law enforced. And we have to make sure that we do that. But we have to also make sure that we make sure that people feel welcomed coming to this country. We need to change our immigration. We need to make sure we have merit-based immigration so that people can come here who want to be Americans and participate in America. That's absolutely important. So we got to make sure that we don't tar a group as all criminals of some sort or another. We have to make sure we go after the criminals that murdered your child, as well as the criminals who are threatening our neighborhoods. But we also have to make sure that we communicate to the people that we are a welcoming nation, and we want to have an immigration policy that makes sense, that brings in people who will add to us and won't subtract and won't murder our children. Thank you.
Maggie.
I would like to know, who do you think the scariest Democratic governor candidate running is, and who might have a chance of getting a nomination, and why, and how you can beat them?
Listen, let's be clear. The person that is going to be picked by the Democrats is Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom is to the left of Bernie Sanders. Gavin Newsom wants a single-payer healthcare system in California that would bankrupt the state in the first 6 months. This would mean that you would have to go to the DMV to see your doctor, or the equivalent of the Veterans Administration. I don't know about you, but I want to keep my doctor. What do you say? Right? Gavin Newsom is the mayor that wants sanctuary cities. He wants open borders just like Gary Johnson does. Gavin Newsom stands for everything that Californians don't want. But don't forget, Gavin's tall, Gavin's good looking, Gavin's smooth, But Gavin is wrong on every single major issue for Californians. We need a candidate running against Gavin Newsom that can stand on that stage and beat him point for point. We need someone who has the energy, the fire, that understands California's issues, that has lived here his entire life and born right in our state, that will beat Gavin Newsom to become our next governor. There's only one person in the race that can do that.
Well, it is Gavin Newsom, and why? Because he's used to telling audiences what they want to hear. Not what they need to hear, what they want to hear. And pandering. And I would never give him a contribution because he's the worst kind of politician. He's a panderer and a shapeshifter and a liar. He's a political chameleon, but he's good. He may be a surfer for all I know. But he's young, and he's talented, and he speaks well, and that's going to be tough. And I'll tell you what, I talked to Rick Steiner. Anybody know who Rick Steiner is? Rick Steiner is the governor of Michigan, a very blue state, right? He's a CPA and an attorney like me. He's a venture capitalist and a real estate investor like me. I talked to him, it was like we were looking in a mirror. And what he said is that he ran as a nerd. He ran as a guy who was going to fix the problems of Michigan, who was going to get the economy going again, who was going to get jobs going again, who was going to get the affordability of that state back so that people could afford to live there, who was going to improve the education program. Rick Steiner was a nerd, he really is. But he got elected and re-elected, and he's turned that state around, and that's exactly what I'm going to do in California.
Mike.
Yes, I would like to know if I'm going to be voting for one of you guys. I would like to know, are you going to take a strong stance on securing our border, enforcing our immigration laws, and taking a systematic and aggressive removal of illegal aliens from our country? No questions, no excuses.
But I want to talk about something very quickly first, which is, you know, John Cox has been making a lot about the fact that what galvanized me to run and actually change California was listening firsthand to these Democrats and understanding exactly what they stood for. That's what I did in 2010 and 2011, and that's why I ran, and that's why I have been elected for the last 5 years with a 100% record from all of the conservative organizations. The only true conservative in this race. In 2016, John just contributed something called the Mayday PAC, which is run by one of George Soros' buddies. And as a matter of fact, they only spent $2,250 of the $5,000 that he gave him supporting Republicans. So John, where did the rest of their money go? Think about this. That was the year before last. Now, the bottom line, California will enforce federal immigration law. We will empower our law enforcement to work directly with ICE to make sure that people who are not here in our state committing crimes get a one-way ticket out, and they won't be coming back. Unlike John Cox, I supported and voted for our Republican nominee for president, Donald Trump, who is going to secure our borders. Gary Johnson stands for open borders. You know, you have, for all these people who want to say, oh, Travis Allen made these contributions before he was elected, right? For all those people, look at the thousands of votes that I have cast. All of them conservative, every single one. The only vote we've ever seen from John Cox didn't support our president.
And you can talk to the California Pro-Life Council about the votes that Travis got staked out on, and that's why they endorsed me as the only pro-life candidate in this race. I even forgot the question.
Are you going to enforce immigration laws?
Yeah, I'm certainly going to enforce immigration laws, and again, that's because I'm sworn to uphold the law. Our laws are there for a reason, and if we don't enforce our laws, we have chaos. We need to make sure that we enforce our laws. We also need to elect political leaders who don't mislead you, okay? I gave, and Travis knows this very well, I gave $5,000 to a group, Mayday PAC, that was collecting signatures for the neighborhood legislature. That's the only reason I didn't. I have no pretense about giving any money to any Democrat, as Mr. Allen did with Jerry Brown, Barbara Boxer. As if you don't know what Barbara Boxer stands for, yet Mr. Allen gave her money. I said before, I would cut off my arm before I gave money to Hillary Clinton, Chuck Schumer, Barbara Boxer, Gavin Newsom, or any of those. And why? Because they're wrong. And that's why you have to look at what people do and not just what they say. Thank you.
In the previous gubernatorial election, the RNC and some Republican elites brought in and financially supported Neil Kashkari against the leading Republican candidate, Tim Donnelly. With this in mind, I have two questions. One, are either of you or both of you being financially supported by the RNC? And second, if not, do you have a plan if the RNC does not provide financial support to you to win the election?
Yeah, the RNC is not in this race right now. But the bottom line is anybody that wants to support the only true conservative, we're going to make sure that their money goes to making sure that we take back our state. But unfortunately, they're not spending their money right now. The bottom line is this. In the last election, there were two candidates in the race, Neil Kashkari and Tim Donnelly, who sits right back there in the room. Tim Donnelly got an avalanche of money spent against him by the Republican establishment that tried to convince voters that Neil Kashkari was somehow more conservative than Tim Donnelly. Do you hear echoes of that on the stage tonight? Look, there's only one person with a real vote record. If you don't believe me, go look it up. It's everywhere on the internet. This is why I get the endorsement of all of these conservative organizations, right? Very simple. And by the way, since John Cox wants to talk about, the pro-life issue, there's only one person on the stage who gets a 0% rating from Planned Parenthood. So you know exactly where I stand. Say again? No, I was 0% last year from Planned Parenthood. Don't worry, you're looking at two pro-life candidates on the stage. So the bottom line is this. If the RNC wants to get involved in California, we are going to let them. We want them. But we want to make sure that they are working to elect the right Republican. We are going to need everyone to stand up and get up and vote. We're going to need all of those 4.4 million Trump voters to get off their couch and show up in 2018 to make sure we get a Republican governor.
Yeah, I've been a Republican my whole adult life. I've also been pro-life my whole adult life, which goes to the fiber of my being, as a matter of fact. I stand up for it. And I also tell the truth. And that's the most important thing, ladies and gentlemen. Go investigate for yourself. I tell the truth. Yes, I didn't vote for Donald Trump because I evaluated the candidates. I was a Cruz supporter, and I didn't like the fact that he had told Tim Russert 5 years before he ran that he was the most pro-choice person in the world. I love the fact that he's not now. I adore the job he's done. I love it, but you are crucifying me over a tough decision I had to make in November of 2016. That was a tough decision, and it was a tough decision for a whole lot of conservatives all across the country. I am a true conservative. I'm the one that was endorsed by pro-life. I've been a lifetime member of the NRA. I'm on record on conservative issues all across the board, and I tell the truth, and that's very, very important. We need to make sure that we have a candidate who can knit all Republicans together. Because I got news for you. This goes to the RNC issue. We are the minority party in this state. We have to get decline the state voters as well as Republicans. We are not going to win this race. I talked to Larry Hogan, who is the conservative governor of Maryland. You need to stitch together all Republicans of all stripes to get this fun. Thank you.
But this is maybe a good opportunity to bring up this next issue. Before you get to take on Newsom or Villaraigosa or whoever it ends up being on the Democrat side, is you got to get into the second place position in the first round. And you look at the recent polling data, And first of all, if you look at the two of you, you're polling rate as individuals. Roughly 60% of Californians don't know who you are. Another 20% don't know enough about you to have an opinion, favorable or unfavorable. When you look at who you want for governor, Newsom is about 25, 26, Villaraigosa is 18, 19, and depending on the poll, you guys are at 9 or 6 in 3rd, 4th, or 5th place. 1 in 15. So, how do you get to the second round to take on the Democrat?
Very simply. There's been a number of polls that came out. The most credible one, the only one that accurately or came closest to accurately predicting the presidential election, was the LA Times USC poll. That poll has me at 15%, and everybody else is a little bit behind that. So the bottom line is, how do you win in California? How do you get through the California voters? Well, this is why I have the largest social media presence of any Republican in California. Who here is following me on Facebook and join Travis Allen? Right? You got to talk to Californians wherever they are. You got to bring the message up and down the state. But let me tell you something. This brings up a very real point. There is a silent supermajority in California that has been forgotten for far too long. Californians are leaving the state because the Democrats have run it into the ground. This is where all of you come in. This is why I was endorsed by Californians for Trump. This is why I have the largest volunteer organization of any of the candidates, Republican or Democrat, in the race. Join my team. Join me, and let's take back California. Tell your friends. Tell your neighbors. Change is coming to California. 2018 is our year, and this is our state.
Lots for misleading statements. Do your own research. The Dornsife poll that Mr. Allen refers to identified me as a lawyer, and that was totally discounted. All the other polls that came out showed me being far, far ahead of the other Republican in the race. So how am I going to get into the top two? Because people want an end to corruption. They want their government back. They're not willing to just listen to real nice rhetoric anymore. They've had enough of that. Arnold Schwarzenegger was elected, wasn't he? Nobody had more money, more name recognition, more star power, and he failed miserably because the special interests killed him. They terminated the Terminator. I'm not going to let that happen. I'm going to talk to the people of the state about doing something about the cronyism and the corruptions of the special interest. I'm going to talk about giving the power back to the people and putting this state back on an even keel. I'm going to talk about the affordability and the business climate and what a businessman can do for the people. I may not get your blood pressure up, but I'm going to make this state livable again. And I believe that there's more than enough people in this state who are sick and tired of the Democrat mismanagement and misrule. They will put me in the top two, and then when I go head-to-head with Mr. Newsom, he is way, way to the left. The people will vote for a business person. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to take another audience question, then we're going to go to a panelist, audience. Next.
You took part of my question, actually. So I'm just going to go ahead and ask my whole question. Democrats have a 19 percentage point voter registration advantage in California, and only 1 in 4 of the state's voters are registered Republicans. No GOP candidate has been elected to statewide office since 2006, and Democrats hold supermajorities in both houses of the legislature. My question relates to the two primary voting system we have here in California. Based on recent polls, Travis Allen leads by 15 percentage points. John Cox, are you willing to concede prior to the primary ballot deadline in order to ensure only 1 Republican is on the primary ballot in June, thereby splitting the Democratic vote?
I just told you that poll was distorted, by the way. All the other polls showed me far ahead of Travis, so I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's a truth. It's a truth. It's a truth. The point is, by the way, I'm in this to win it. And I've raised over $500,000 in the campaign thus far. I put in $3 million. I'm not a self-funder, but I'm going to have the resources to take this to the Democrats. So it's all well and good, and I'm with you on 99% of the issues. I am, and if you look at my background, you'll see I am a true conservative through and through and through. But I'm also championing an issue that 80% of the people want. 80% of the people in this state believe that special interests control Sacramento, and they want something done about it. They know it's the reason why their state is unaffordable. They know it's the reason why people are having to leave. They know it's the reason why we have a water shortage. They know it, and they want something done about it. I've been a businessman for 40 years. I'm not a politician. I'm not as practiced. Maybe I have a charisma deficit. But I'm telling you, I can win this because I'm going to talk to the people of this state about correcting the problems and forging solutions, because that's what business people do. They forge solutions, and I've had 40 years of experience doing that. Thank you.
We have a request here. Hang on. We have a request here that we have an audience question or a panelist question and the candidate answers, and the comments from the audience. I understand you may feel strongly about the issue or the candidate, but those are not helpful to the process of deciding which of the two candidates we want to have as our candidate for governor. Panelist, Judy, you're up next.
What experience do you have dealing with the military issues, as well as veterans and veteran issues?
I didn't serve in the military. I graduated high school in 1973. Yes, I'm that old. And it was the end of the Vietnam War, and I was the first class not to get a lottery number, as you might know. But I have served on the board of the USO in Chicago for 10 years, and when I moved here, I volunteered to serve on the USO board in San Diego, and I'm very proud of that service. It's given me a lot of contact with the military, who I respect greatly. I mean, there's no bigger sacrifice you can make for your country. I mean, Travis and I are making sacrifices right now. We're being away from our children. We're spending our time and our effort to be before you, and I consider that a sacrifice. But if that pales next to the thought of going into war and having your life at risk and defending your country, I consider this an honor to do what I'm doing here today. I'm not doing this, as I said, to get my name up there or do anything else. I'm doing this because it needs to happen. I'm doing this because I believe in this state, I believe in this country, and I'm willing to put my money where my mouth is and get the job done. And I hope you understand that, and I think the people of this state will understand that. They know that this state has been mismanaged by the Democrats. They're looking for somebody who can manage well. They're not looking for a show horse, they're looking for a workhorse. That's what I am. I'm going to be talking about fixing the problems in this state. Thank you.
My father served, my grandfathers on both sides served, and their fathers served. California has always been an incredible state for our military, right? Grew up in San Diego. We got Point Loma right there. You go up into Oceanside. You go up into Pendleton. California has always been the home to the United States military, and it always should be. We got to make sure that we respect these guys and gals, and we take good care of them. But what does this actually mean? I mean, everybody's pro-veteran, everybody's for our armed forces. We all recognize this is great. Let me tell you, what this really means is it means that we need to get serious about making this a livable state again. A state where these people, when they're done serving, can actually go and live in the communities that they have been stationed in. That's what made our state so strong. This is why we need affordable housing. This is why we need to build everywhere. We need to cut our taxes. We need to make this a safe state again with great communities. What's the greatest gift that we can give back our military men and women is to say, when you are done with your service, we want you to stay right here in our state and make sure that this is the safest and greatest state in the country.
Okay, we're going back to an audience question, and we are over. It is 8:43, and we have 3-minute closing statements from the candidates. So people have waited so patiently in line here, but we are not going to get to all of you, and that's the enough of me. Next audience question.
I would like to know what you will do to secure our elections and prevent illegal aliens from voting.
So there's been a lot of talk about, what people would do, and there's only one person with an actual record up here. There's only one person that's actually proposed legislation and voted on these issues. The guy behind me, the only vote we saw was for open borders, was for legalization of drugs, was for pro-prostitution candidates. It's very simple. When last year I put legislation, the California legislator, for voter ID. Because if I got to use my license to cash a check to go to my bank to get into that plane, I should have to use my driver's license and actually, not just a driver's license, but proof of California residency and California citizenship to use the most sacred duty that we have, the duty to vote. I did a second bill. This was to clean up our voter rolls because there's nothing the Democrats like more than dead voters and people that vote twice. The Democrats killed both bills, but this is what we need to do because they are going to try to steal 2018 from us. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, there's not a reason that I'm standing in front of you tonight other than I am going to be your next governor. We are going to all have to fight. We're going to have to watch our polls to make sure they're not double voting, to make sure that people that shouldn't be voting are voting. And then once we get in office, we need to make sure that only living, breathing California citizens are voting for California's offices.
As you know by now, I'm not about rhetoric. I'm about action. Remember, it's what you do and not what you say that tells the truth, right? And I have been working on a project, the neighborhood legislature. You got to investigate this. Newt Gingrich called this transformative. And you know why? Because it creates tiny little legislative districts where you can get elected, and you can go door to door, and you can talk about conservative principles. And at the same time, in these little tiny districts, there will be several candidates. And guess what? They will make sure that every vote is validly cast and is a legal vote. That is the best way to assure that we have legal elections. I don't trust the politicians. I don't trust the bureaucrats. I trust the people. And that's what the neighborhood legislature is all about, is about putting the power in the hands of people in small little elections so that we know every vote counts. I put my time and my money where my mouth is. It's not just rhetoric. We've got an avenue to make sure that every vote is counted and it's valid, and that's in the hands of people in little tiny districts making sure of that. Thank you.
John Barry.
Yes. In December, Judicial Watch sued the state of California for its failure to remove inactive voters from voter registration rolls as mandated by the National Voter Registration Act. In fact, Judicial Watch, replicating data unearthed by the Election Integrity Project in California, discovered that 11 counties had more registered voters than actual adults. This includes Los Angeles County, which had listed an impossible 112% voter registration rate. As governor, what would you do to force California and its 58 counties to comply with the National Voter Registration Act?
Very simple. Again, John Cox was just talking about a record of action. I think this is great because that's exactly what I have. I was the one that actually put forward legislation to fix what Judicial Watch found, which is that there's actually more people voting in California than there are people of voting age. How is that possible? It is not. We must have the next governor of the state of California clean out all of the voter rolls. Go to every single county and make sure that every voter that's voting lives here, lives where they say they live, and that they are a citizen of the United States and a citizen of our state, California. They're going to try to steal this election, which is why I've already asked Jeff Sessions and Donald Trump to bring their election integrity project to California. Let's get the feds in here and clean up California, because Jerry Brown and Gavin Newsom and their cronies don't want to do it. Let's make sure we clean up California, we get free and fair elections, and then only living, breathing California citizens are electing our next governor.
Again, I'm not about rhetoric, and the bills that were introduced by Travis were probably great bills, and they went nowhere. And that's the point, ladies and gentlemen. I can sit up here and tell you all kinds of great things that I'm for, and I'm certainly for voter integrity. I'm certainly for removing voters from the registry rolls that aren't validly on there. But how are we going to get that done in this state? We need a sea change in this state. We need a transformation. We need a change in the power structure. It's wonderful that we have a super minority of Republican assemblymen who introduce bills that go absolutely nowhere. And that's the problem. And if you think a Republican governor is going to make the difference, go back and look at Arnold Schwarzenegger's record. That didn't make a difference one iota. Nothing got done. And if you think if Schwarzenegger wasn't good, go check Bruce Rauner in Illinois. He's about to lose. And why? Because the public sector unions and the cronies in Springfield are controlling Illinois just like they control Sacramento. I'm asking you to join a revolution. Let's take this back. Let's take this state back. The neighborhood legislature is the way, it's the plan, it's the mechanism, it's the structure that's going to give us the tools to take back this state so that we don't just live on rhetoric. Thank you.
Audience question. Gentlemen, I'm a teacher and a member of a union. If the Janus ruling comes through as expected, I will be quitting my union because my union only supports Democrats and extreme liberal views. However, school districts are so controlled by the left, especially by social justice warriors, that the moderate and conservative teachers are at risk. Positions are advertised for social justice warrior teacher. If they're not advertised, when you go for the interview, they'll ask you, what are your views on social justice? And if you don't say the right answer, you're not hired. Read, they want liberal teachers. Left-wing administrators are much harsher on known moderate or conservative teachers during reviews. And when teachers like me, moderates and conservatives, we have to keep quiet, we have to keep very quiet, while our liberal colleagues tell students that conservatives, right-leaning moderates, and anyone who supported President Trump are racists, and that our president is racist. For fear of losing our job, we can't counteract this garbage that's being said by our liberal colleagues. Might you have any thoughts on how to support moderate and conservative teachers that wish to leave unions after the Janus ruling? And might you have any thoughts about how to bring some fair conversations back to the classroom of this state? Because the communists and the socialists have it right. You control the education system, you control the public.
My mother was a Chicago public school teacher. There's 325,000 members of the California Teachers Association. At $1,000 a year, ladies and gentlemen, that's $325 million a year. You add in the nurses, the prison guards, all the other union members, and that's how they control our politics. We've got to stop beating our heads against the wall. It's great to have rhetoric, but we need a mechanism to take our government back. I agree with you. Our schools are our most important resource, and they're being driven into liberal hell, basically, by teachers who are giving their own personal opinions. Talk to Shirley Weber. Do you know who Shirley Weber is? She's a black teacher who's now in the assembly, and she's introduced a bill several times to move the probation period from 2 years to 3 years. It's never gotten anywhere. I mean, that's a tiny little change. You're asking for bigger changes. I'm with you 1,000%, but I'm sick. I'm sick and tired of knocking my head against the wall and hoping that these things change. They're not going to change on their own. They're not going to change with all the flowery rhetoric and all the rah-rah that you have. We've got to have a mechanism to take back this government. The neighborhood legislature, investigate it, get behind it. It's the way that we're going to take back our government from the cronies and the corrupt. And 80% of the people of this state, 80% want the corruption out of Sacramento.
So John Cox has this, John Cox's best original idea is this neighborhood legislature. This would take our legislature from 120 members to over 12,000. I don't know about you, it kind of sounds like the People's Republic of China, right? Can you imagine? Could California even afford the sexual harassment lawsuits with 12,000 legislators? Guys, this idea makes absolutely no sense. It might work in New Hampshire or China, but it's never going to work in California. It's just so far out there. The problem is that we just talked about is we have great people. We have California's teachers. I went to public school. Raise your hand. Did you go to public school? My daughter is in public school. Did we have great teachers? I had a bunch of them. I love teachers. But you know what? When the California Teachers Union spends over $200 million in the last decade alone, and 99% of that goes to Democrat candidates, we have a problem. I support you as a teacher. I support you to have whatever political views you want to, and you should not be ostracized. But you know what? Also, you shouldn't be teaching politics in your classroom, and I know you don't. You should be teaching our kids how to learn to read and learn to do math. Why are our kids 46th and 47th in the nation in reading and mathematics? My 8-year-old daughter has the right to go to the very best school in the nation. Every Californian has the right to send their kids to the very best schools in the country, and that's what we're going to do.
All right, Governor Brown is just getting ready to submit his budget. And I'd like some specific prescriptions of what both of you would do given the situation Governor Brown is going to be faced with. We just learned from the Legislative Analyst's Office this year that the state's coffers are going to overflow with an additional $7.5 billion. We're the highest tax state. Gas taxes, sales taxes are highest. We just had Prop 55 extend Prop 30. We have the highest income and sales tax now locked in for the next 12 years. Yet our state is fiscally ranked 43rd in 2017. He's set to release his budget. His priorities are going to include a small surplus, funding for his boondoggle rail project, as well as some money set aside for the rainy day fund. With that $7.5 billion, I want to know specifically what would each of you do with that extra money to address the issues that we have here in the state?
I got a great idea. How about we rebate the surplus back to the California people and put money back in your pockets where it belongs? Why is this such a shocking idea? Why does everybody think in Sacramento, if you listen to Jerry Brown and Gavin Newsom and Antonio Villaraigosa, that the only answer is the government? Let me tell you, for anybody that believes that the government is going to solve your problems, you better run the other way. The bottom line is we are already among the highest tax state in the nation, with the highest personal income tax, the highest sales tax, this brand new gas tax that you never voted for. That Jerry Brown had to lie and bribe 4 legislators over $1 billion to pass. And what do they want to do? He wants to spend your hard-earned money on a bullet train to nowhere that no Californian wants, and even fewer are ever going to ride. What we need to do with California's money is put it back into California's pockets. We need a tax cut to grow our economy. And here's the great thing about that. When we cut taxes in California, which is what I will do as your next governor, I'm not going to do it through the legislature. I'm going to bring it directly before the California people in special elections. And unlike Arnold Schwarzenegger, we're not going to do it one time. I am going to do it every single year until we pass tax cuts in California. Let's get our money working for us, and then let's put it in California's pockets. And that's how we take back our state. That's how we change things. The bottom line is the next governor of California can change everything, and that's why it's so important.
You know, it's not just that they take so much money, and I agree with you. It'd be great to have that money back in our pockets, but they misspend it. And that's what I'm going to be talking about in this campaign. Caltrans, voted the most corrupt and inefficient agency in the country. They spend $4 for every dollar Texas spends to build a mile of road. The waste and corruption of this government is legendary, and I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about the mismanagement. I'm going to talk about the overtime, and I'm going to talk about it based upon 40 years of running my own business. That is what is going to get me elected, but not only am I going to get elected, I'm going to be improving your lives. This government needs to go on a diet. We need to take a meat axe to this budget, and believe me, we're going to get rid of the hundreds of boards and commissions that are for old assemblymen and who have turned out. We're going to get rid of the corruption and waste in Caltrans. And let me make sure that you understand about the misleading nature of the comments about the neighborhood legislature. 120 people are all that go to Sacramento. The other 12,000 are in the neighborhoods keeping tabs on the people in Sacramento. And we make sure that they do what we want them to do. It is the only way in this state that we're ever going to take back control of our government. And the people of New Hampshire have had this system for 150 years and enjoy a wonderful business.
Okay, we are at 8:59, and I've got people that have been waiting so patiently in line here. So I'm going to give it to the candidates. Do you want your closing statements now to wrap it up, or can you indulge us for some more audience questions? I know it's running late and you have a long distance. Okay, let's shorten the answers. Timekeeper, 1 minute each on the answers, and try to keep your questions as brief as possible. Correct. Go.
Question. Much has been said about who gave money or supported a candidate of another party. I'd like to know about May Change and who as recently as last year made the donation and supported George Soros.
He thought you were going to ask about his contributions to Barbara Boxer and to Gavin Newsom and to Jerry Brown as recently as 2011. I gave a donation to a PAC that was dedicated to getting money out of politics, which is what I am. I want to get big business and big labor money out of politics so that we can take back control of our government. And you can see what's happening in Illinois and California right now. We have got to do that. So I gave money to this group. It wasn't, George Soros didn't call me up. That's another misleading comment. I gave money for them to collect signatures. That was it. I didn't give money to Barbara Boxer. I didn't give money to Gavin Newsom to their campaign coffers. I gave it to a group that was doing a specific job collecting signatures for the initiative. That was it.
Look, I'm going to tell everybody, I saw the light. In 2010 and 2011, I saw these guys firsthand. Yeah, I went to some of these events. I bought tickets to their events. And I listened to them, and I said, these guys are nuts. I'm going to fight these guys. I'm going to do everything in my power to stop them. And that's exactly what I've done for the last 7 years. You want to talk about action? There is only one true conservative in this race, and all of the records, all of the scorecards, all of the votes, all of the speeches, all of the op-eds, all of them say that Travis Allen is the only true conservative running for California governor. Wow. A year and a half ago, in 2016, the guy sitting behind me gave $5,000 to a PAC that was set up by a buddy of George Soros. Of his $5,000, only $2,250 actually went to support a Republican. So, I don't know, that was only a year and a half ago. Where did the rest of the $2,750 go, John?
Time. Shirley.
Well, here we are again. I have a question for the panel.
or for our two gentlemen up there that are running for governor of this great state. There were 17 people running for the president nomination. A lot of people did not support our good president, Donald Trump. There was a lot of people that had other candidates they preferred. So what's wrong with that? So what's wrong with that? They had somebody else they liked better. And as it came down the wire, we got the best guy. So my point is freedom of thought and deed.
Thank you very much. I agree with you, and I made a decision. I now look back at it as a mistake because Donald Trump has fulfilled way better than I expected. I love his, and it's not just Neil Gorsuch, it's all the lower court judiciary appointments. It's Scott Gottlieb and Betsy DeVos and all those things. But let's get to the issues. Don't be fooled by the rhetoric and the emotion here. Let's talk about the issues, about who can get elected, about what they can get accomplished when they are elected. Isn't that why we're all involved in politics anyway? To make changes in our life? It's not to score points in a political debate. It's about making this state better for my daughter and for all of you. That's what I'm committed to here. I have talked incessantly about the solutions to our problems. I'm going to continue to do that. Don't be fooled by the rhetoric. Go with what can get done in this state, and I'm a true conservative that will be a governor who will be a conservative governor.
You know, I just gotta love it when John Cox says, don't get fooled by the rhetoric. If you didn't vote for the Republican nominee for president in 2016, you supported Hillary Clinton. If you didn't vote for Donald Trump, you voted for crooked Hillary. If you chose to sit out, you supported 8 more years of Barack Obama and the crooked Clinton family. That is a real record. Now let's talk about this whole thing about who can actually win. Who here on the stage has won every single election he's been involved in? And not just me, I've helped Republicans up and down the state get elected. John Cox is a 3-time failed politician. He failed when he ran for president. He failed when he ran for Senate. He even failed when he ran for county clerk recorder. There's no way this guy can win in California. Let's support a candidate who can actually beat Gavin Newsom and win.
Arthur, as Bill O'Reilly says, keep it pithy.
I will, no problem. I've heard a lot of talk about lawsuits. I have heard a lot of talk about emergency legislative sessions. I don't want to hear those two. I want to know what you will do as governor to enforce the immigration laws and the federal immigration laws in the state of California. What can you do? What steps can you take?
Well, I think we've already answered that, and that is that I will stand for enforcing the law. I will work with the federal government to make sure that our border.
How? Don't tell people to enforce it. How?
I will end sanctuary state. I will get our law enforcement agencies to work together with the federal government to make sure that we catch illegal aliens who are committing crimes. I will make sure that we preserve the peace in this state. And that's all I can tell you.
You know what John Cox can't tell you? John Cox can't tell you that he wants to build a wall and secure our border. Because let me tell you something. There's only one vote that we get to know about from John Cox, and that's that he supported Gary Johnson. Gary Johnson believes in open borders, and it's not just a talking point for him. He has said if you build a 10-foot wall, they'll just come with an 11-foot ladder. Think about that. We need a governor that will actually enforce our law. We need a governor that will protect our border and make sure that people aren't coming over that shouldn't be here. Let me tell you something. This is not just about making sure that our state stays safe. A lot of these people that come over, they have great hearts and they just want a better life. But you know what? Illegal immigration and illegal immigration policies that support that do not benefit them. They are here living in the shadows, victims of crime, always looking over their shoulder, and we have to end that. California will have secure borders.
Aye.
And California's next governor is going to make sure of that.
I'm not sure how I got this question. You alluded to earlier. Will you support my initiative to repeal the top two? A yes or a no?
10 seconds, timer.
Yes. I was elected actually under the top two, just so you know. I ran against another Republican. I never would have been here without the open primary. So I was pretty conflicted about this for years. But now I finally realized that the only way we're going to take back this state is we need Republicans running in San Francisco and in Los Angeles and all of these areas where their only choice is two Democrats. We must have a Republican on every single ballot.
I agree more than that. I agree that we should have small elections, door-to-door elections, where we have a chance of winning. These districts are so large, the unions and the big businesses control our government, and therefore they control our lives. That's the reality, ladies and gentlemen. I didn't create this system, but I'm working overtime to try to change it. I want you to run for the state legislature. I want you to be able to run for the state legislature. And you'll win because you'll be talking about issues and you'll be talking about conservative issues. I believe most people agree with us on the issues. They don't want to be wet nursed by the government. They don't want government controlling their lives. They want to be left alone. They want opportunity. The neighborhood legislature and my candidacy affords us that opportunity. Join with me in this effort to do something to get our state back to sanity again. Thank you.
Yes, college tuition is outrageously high in our state. Yet Governor Brown signed a bill that gives illegal alien students in-state tuition, number one, number two, state-funded scholarships. As governor, would you take action to, number one, end the in-state tuition for illegal aliens and state-funded scholarships?
Yes. Yes, because California's taxpayer dollars should be used for the benefit of California's citizens. We have to educate our children. Listen, I gotta tell you, I'm a very proud father. My wife just gave birth to a beautiful baby girl in November, just about a month ago. And my other daughter is 8 years old and she goes to a public school. I want them both to grow up here in California. I want them to go to California's public schools. I want them to go to California's universities. And I don't want to hear that there's not a space for them because people that shouldn't even be here in this country are given priority over people that are California citizens. That's just not right, and that must end. California, just like America, is first and foremost for Californians. If you want to come to our state, you come in the front door. You do it the right way. You become a citizen, and you will enjoy those benefits.
When I went to college, I worked my way through college. No scholarships, no loans, no mommy, daddy to pay for it. I paid for it all myself. That's what we need to get back to. We need to get back to affordable housing. All these loan programs and in-state tuition benefits and all these things have driven up the cost of education. Go look at the inflation-adjusted numbers. The cost of education in this state has just skyrocketed way more than the price of inflation. We need to make sure that college is affordable by all people. And again, one of the reasons it's driven up is because of the cronies, the universities who buy politicians in Sacramento. We need to get a legislature that's not bought, that's going to make sure that college professors work. They don't just teach one class and that's it. They actually work, and we reduce the cost of education so that all of us can have the choice of a good education for our children. Travis, I'm against in-state tuition for illegal aliens.
It is 9:12. and I promise you guys to get you out of here by 9 o'clock. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 activists here lined up to ask questions. I'm good to go. I know you guys got to drive a long distance, so I don't want to indulge. You've been so kind to come out here and talk to our people, and I don't want to indulge that or push our limits there. So you guys tell me what you want to do. One more.
I have an interview at 9 in the morning in San Diego. I told you that when we did this. I'm not making this up. I got an interview at 9 in the morning in San Diego. I've got to get home and I've got to get up early in the morning to do that interview.
We're going to tell. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to.
I don't know that there's any issue that we really have.
Okay. So here's what we're going to do. Command decision. We are going to take one more audience question, and then we'll go to your closing statements. And I apologize for running over, and I thank you so much for coming out here. So you have the honor of the last question. Make it a good one.
Thank you, gentlemen. My name is Shirley Hussar. I am the 2016 surrogate for President Trump for the state of California. That means I represent everyone in this room, entire state. I am also currently the White House influencer for the state of California. This is my question to you. President Trump just signed an executive order. The executive order has to do with the blocking of personal property involving human rights abuse and corruption. There are many indictments that are going to come down the platform in the state of California. And it has to do with illegal immigration and the funding of illegal immigration. So my question to you is, Cox, is you. You did not vote for President Trump. You are not strong on illegal immigration. I personally find you a waste of time.
Is there a question? Not a statement.
To be in this race to hinder this party that has been hurting, which I have been a Republican and a native all my life. So this is my question. Neither one of you candidates have addressed the homelessness downtown, the homelessness underneath the freeway, the homelessness throughout the cities. You've not talked about hepatitis A. You've not talked about 2 cases of leprosy in San Bernardino. You've not talked about every one of the people who have jobs in this state are not black nor white, they're Latinos. The Latino community have taken this state hostage. So my question to you is, what do you have to say about homelessness and hepatitis and sanitation? Because you didn't vote for Trump, I find you a waste of American time.
You know, I'm really sorry you feel that way, man. You don't know me at all. You don't know me. Go look on the internet. You look at the 30 years. You look at the 30 years. You don't know me, and I respect the fact that you work for President Trump. The homelessness problem is a product of a lot of things. A lot of those people are just released criminals because we can't afford to keep them in jail. Am I right? I talked about that, okay, which is the special interest corruption. A lot of those people are drug users. They should be incarcerated in hospitals like Portugal does to clean them up, to get them off the streets. I'm just giving you my answer, man. There's a multi-pronged solution to this. And a lot of those people are homeless because the housing costs have been driven up to a ridiculous level. I called for the abolition and repeal of CEQA because CEQA is one of the laws that drives up the cost of housing. A lot of those people on the street can't afford to buy a house in this state. And if I'm the governor of this state, I'm going to work towards making sure that houses are built, that the price of houses comes down, that the price of rents comes down. I've spent my life in housing. Those are the 3. I just did that.
Time.
So Shirley, I was in San Francisco just the other day, and I parked in a public parking lot, and as I walked, it was about 10 o'clock at night, I smelled something kind of funny in the staircase. It was human waste in the staircase. These stories are true. People are truly getting hepatitis on the sidewalks of San Diego. There are hypodermic needles and human waste all over the city of San Francisco. But it's not just those cities, it's every city across California. Because our city elected officials, our county elected supervisors are scared to enforce their own loitering laws and anti-camping laws because they're scared of the ACLU and the lawsuits. What they need somebody at the top of the state that is willing to enforce our laws, stand behind them, and clean up our streets. Clean it up for us, for our families, so it's safe to walk down the streets. Clean it up for all these homeless people that don't want to be there in the first place. California needs to once again have places that these people can go where they can get the help that they need. We did it before. There was problems in the system. We need to do it again, but we need to do it right.
All right. I'm going to have to apologize to everyone else that's been waiting so patiently in line, or we're going to have to move to closing statements. Before you're on your way out, if you haven't already voted in the closing straw poll, drop your blue ticket in the appropriate bucket up here at the entrance, and we'll be announced, once we count them all up, we'll announce the befores and the afters, and we'll see if either of these candidates have moved the dial at all with the debate tonight. I want to thank so much our candidates for coming out tonight. Both have driven a long way. I want to thank our great panelists, Don and Judy and I don't know the guy's name. I don't know what the guy's name up there is. And our audience of activists from our own group and from all of the Unite IE groups that have come out tonight and showed who they support or the case may be. And going forward, just like Donald Trump cannot make America great again by himself, neither of these candidates, even if they get elected, are not going to save California by themselves. It takes everyone. Our mantra, our motto, we keep repeating it, is the most important political office is what? One more time. The most important political office is what? The private citizen, which includes voting. Okay, now, John started with the opening statement, so Travis, why don't you go up, is 2 minutes okay, or you want to go 3? 3 minutes.
I have a radio interview at 6 o'clock. I have another radio interview at 7:15, and I have a speech in Los Angeles tomorrow morning. I will stay until everyone has come to my booth in the back and bought and donated a Travis Allen t-shirt and joined our team to take back California. Now, I would challenge all of you, the Redlands Tea Party Patriots, to use the results of your straw poll to do an endorsement. I am here seeking your endorsement tonight. I want all of you on my team to take back our state. So there is one Republican challenging the Democrats and beating Gavin Newsom. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Travis Allen. I've lived in California my entire life, born and raised here. I've had to sit here and watch as my family and friends have left our great state due to 24 years of the Brown family running California into the ground. 39 in the last 40 years of the California Democrats dominating the legislature, giving us among the highest taxes in the nation, insane regulations, and too many laws that don't make sense. This is a state that can be won. This is a state that we can turn around. But we need a candidate with a real record. Every single day that I have been in office since 2012, I have fought for you. I am the only true conservative in this race. And every single major organization backs that claim up. And you don't even have to take their word. Research it for yourself. Go on the internet, look at all of my votes. There is a reason I get 100% from the Howard Jarvis Taxpayer Association. There is a reason I get 0% from Planned Parenthood. 0% last year, my friend, and look at their lifetime ratings as well. Well, you better believe that you go look at the votes and you will see. So the bottom line is this. What we need in California is we need a candidate that can stand on that stage with Gavin Newsom and go toe-to-toe. We need a candidate that can cut our taxes, make our communities safe again, fix our roads and expand our freeways, fix our broken education system, complete our state water project, and reverse the illegal sanctuary state. We need a governor that understands that one person can turn around the state, just like one person just turned around our country in 2016. California's best days are ahead of us. The days of rebuilding California, of lowering our taxes, of making this once again the greatest state in the nation, and restoring the California dream are ahead of us. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Travis Allen. Follow me online at jointravisallen at jointravisallen.com. We are the silent super majority. Let's go take back California!
19 states have elected businessmen as governors. And why? Because they get solutions. They force solutions. They get things done. They're not just a bunch of rhetoric. They're not just a bunch of screaming. They're not misleading people about the facts of their record. What they do is they get things done. That's why I'm in this race. Anybody go to the internet and look at my 30-year track record of running for office. Yes, I've been in the arena several times, but the gods have changed now. You look at Brexit, you look at France, you look at 19 states around the country that have elected businessmen as Republican governors, and they're happy they did because they're getting things done and they're improving the quality of life. That's what I'm committed to doing for you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not doing this for my health. I'm doing this to make this state golden again. It's not about building my ego. It's not about having you clap for me. It's about having you think before you vote. Which one of us has a chance of winning in deep blue California? I'm telling you right now, the media has slaughtered President Trump. Erroneously, by the way. Absolutely unfairly. But that's the reality. What we need is a candidate who's going to be able to reach across, decline the state voters, get the people who are sick and tired of the corruption, they're sick and tired of the unaffordability, and who has a plan. Meg Whitman had no plan. She didn't even vote. I've got a plan to take back the state. It's not just a bunch of rhetoric. It's not a bunch of screaming. It's not a bunch of misleading talk. It's real action. And I'm asking you to follow that. Don't do it because it's me. Do it because it's the right thing to do, and it's the only chance in this state where the big businesses and the big labor bosses are completely in control. Let's fight back with a mechanism that allows us to do it. Not a bunch of rhetoric. That's not going to win this race. Real action and a real structure is the way that we're going to take back this state. Thank you for your patience, and I apologize. I do have to take on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone, candidates, panelists, questioners, audience, and we hope to see you back here for Mark Mosier, Secretary of State candidate, and election integrity, February 1. Have a good evening.